¿Cómo está, my friends? We are going to do a video. This is the second time around I've done it here, so I'm going to try to make it actually quicker because last time it cut out on me and it was probably too long anyway. So we're going to do a video today, as you can see by the title, vulva painting and with Lugols iodine. And for you guys that peek in on this video, no, we're not talking about painting Swedish cars. We're talking about the reproductive organs and issues that go along with that. Of course, I'm kidding, but you know, some people think I'm serious. But anyway, the vulva painting here, what we're focusing on here is things that can be done when you're talking about yeast infections, whether that be STDs or whatever it is, and the surrounding areas. Now, I got into pretty good detail last time around, but I'll try to make it shorter this way around. Why would somebody do that, you think? Why would somebody consider doing that? The painting, all I mean by that is it's a term that the great Tullio Simoncini discussed when he talked about using 7% iodine, Lugols iodine, for skin cancer and stuff like that, which I've seen effective dozens and dozens of times. It's very effective. But painting generally, in those terms, meant you continue to put on drops of that 7% consistently all day long, 15, 20 times a day if you can, and generally speaking within a week, those lesions will generally just fall off. And again, I've seen it happen. But one of the things that you can bank on as far as for iodine is it's been used for a couple hundred years, as most people know. It kind of lost favor to the antibiotics that came out in the earlier part of the 20th century. That pretty much overtook them. The only problem is, a huge problem is antibiotics are way overused today. There's too much antibiotic resistance and stuff like that. Whereas there is virtually no known iodine resistance, which is an antiviral, antifungal, and antibacterial, whereas antibiotics are, as we know, only antibacterial by and large, and that's just something that is far overused for everything under the sun. If somebody's got an infection, whether they know whether it's viral or fungal or not, which it often is other than bacterial, they'll just throw an antibiotic at it anyway. And that wreaks havoc, and they know that in peer-reviewed science. They've known that for decades. They're getting a little better on it, but it's still being handed out like candy. But that's the drug system we live in today. And again, I like to reiterate, we have 5% of the population in the United States, and we use 65% of the world's prescription drugs. So there's a reason why, one of the main reasons we're so damn sick is because of chemicals and drugs, obviously. And they worry about the illegal stuff and throw people in prison. But anyway, that's getting off track, I guess, a little bit. But bottom line is, iodine is critically important. And the subject today, of course, is yeast we're talking about. But the person's got to know that a yeast infection, when you talk about yeast infections, women are like, and you should be, because it's too bad. It's something that is not fun to live with, and it is something that I've actually, over the years, it's probably the single biggest topic, I would say, in holistic health that I've worked with for men and women alike. I mean, it's just something that's so prevalent, and it's nothing to joke about. And it's not just it's not because a person is dirty or anything like that. It's because of things that we can point out today that most people probably already know. But when you talk about birth control, that can cause an issue with the gut flora, and then yeast gets out of control, or you're talking about just sugar and carbs and just overeating, obesity, obviously. Unfortunately, just like a lot of virus, we know obesity goes hand in hand with that. And there's a lot of reasons for that, I won't get into it, but obviously the processed food and all the chemicals and all the junk that's in our diet simply destroys gut flora. It doesn't feed it, and things get out of hand. And with our second brain and our heart's third brain, those neurons and all those things, that's what takes care of that, and they produce particular vitamins and stuff like that, and then we start getting really sick and get out of hand. And again, back to the antibiotics, there are a few things that are worse when it comes to consistent yeast infections than antibiotics. Whether that's for your child, whether that's recurring ear infection, whether that's recurring eye infections, whether that's whatever it is, where antibiotics are continually being used, keep in mind that's a fungal mycotoxin. So they use a fungus toxin, a fungus poison, to kill bacteria. Now that's good and fine. There are particular times that may be critical, but keep in mind it also kills the good bacteria, whereas iodine has been shown for nearly 200 years not to. That's part of that's a nutrient that your body needs. Yes, your body Canada has different yeast and stuff like that, but that's in balance. When they get out of balance because of overuse of antibiotics, those are the things that actually help make you crave those sugars and these carbs and stuff like that, the simple carbs and simple sugars that just end up killing you anyway. We go into a lot of detail on that in another time, but I just know Weston A. Price did some amazing work at the beginning of the 20th century on that, and it still holds so true today, where processed foods, flour, sugars have just taken societies down the tubes, and you can watch it happen within a generation or two. Yeast is a problem. It's a major problem, not just the fact that it's uncomfortable and whatever else. We're talking about things that have yeast and fungus. Again, in some of my videos previously, and you find in the future that oftentimes cancer and yeast and cancer and fungus, they tumor the same, they feed the same, they die the same, they thrive the same. There are connections there that are extremely powerful, and there's a darn good reason why they're repurposing things like toenail fungus and other antifungals to kill cancer. I've known that for 20 years. Doug Kaufman's known it for 30, 40 years. But as soon as the patents run out and they need to repurpose other things and make the buck, they'll just start repurposing and charge 10,000% more, and they're off and running. But I would like to be able to help and hope that people would do something for themselves. That is very powerful. The iodine is something that you could really use, whether it's orally, whether it's topically, to deal with those things, along with, say, the Kaufman antifungal diet, which is the phase 1 antifungal diet, which is phenomenal. And you're going to find when you start dealing with those yeast problems, you're going to start dealing with weight, you're going to start dealing with diabetes, you're going to start dealing with all kinds of health issues that people just don't talk about today. Doug Kaufman of Nova Cause, I love the guy. He's been a friend, and I've worked with a lot of people in this regard, whether it's been cancer, whatever, charitably, and he's blessed me with his whole library of books free of charge, which is, he's just a wonderful man. He's one that you should consider following, especially when it comes to, well, actually those subjects in particular is diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stuff like that. It's great, and when you put those connections together with the yeast and the fungal mycotoxins, it's powerful, and you can do a lot about it without having to break a budget. As a matter of fact, it's a cheaper way of living, by and large. So outside of the one and done, the diaflucan or whatever, that's a good systemic antifungal. There are other things that a person can use, but if I haven't mentioned it, that's great. The only problem is that's a short-term thing. That can take care of a lot of problems, a lot of issues, the azoles, but the diet and the type of living is critical, because you can kill the fungus, keep in mind, but like a squid, if you try to kill the squid and shoots off its ink, that's what fungus do as they die. Those metabolites go in to try to, as they die off, they're intelligent, as they die off, they put out their toxins to try to make for another day where they can take over those areas of tissue, the cells in tissue. And that's what happens when a person consistently, our bodies work beautifully, but if you let them get out of hand, that is something that will have to be dealt with sooner or later. So if I ever mention it again, the yeast is something that you got to know can pass. It's not something that's just a problem for women. It's something that absolutely can be a problem for man. When you talk about prostate, whether it's benign hyperplasia or whether it's prostate cancer, whether it's whatever, just issues in general, as far as reproductive issues in general, those things can happen because if you're not using condoms or that type of safety, that can be passed right through the urethra of a male and into the body of the male. So I mean, we're talking about some pretty important things. So, and I've said this from a lot of other videos too that have talked about the prostate. The prostate, people are not too knowledgeable about that, but the prostate, PSA, is, people think that that's a cancer test, but it's actually not. It's a fungal test. It's a test of 5 different fungal enzymes, and they've known that, metabolites, they've known that for, 25 years. A.V. Costantini, the leading mycologist for WHO, pointed that out many years ago, and even today, to this day, Dr. Richard Ablin, who's the one that discovered the PSA, he's got a great book that says the Prostate Hoax. That's the name of it's Prostate Hoax, and that talks about how much of a horrible scam the PSA test and that in general is for men. Things are happening that just should not be happening. But these all tie together. So what we're going to try to do is, real quickly, is give a couple of suggestions, and always talk to your doctor, talk to your urologist, talk to your gynecologist, of course, and see if this is something that's right for you. Hopefully you've got a doctor, a medical doctor, whomever it is you talk to, hopefully they have some natural health background, because if they state, well, we just don't know about iodine, it might be a little risky. Well, they're obviously not reading PubMed and the peer-reviewed science. What they're reading is how do we give you a drug, and how we sit, and that's the system we live in today. Iodine is incredibly safe. It's been known to be incredibly safe for a very, very, very long time. Trillions of doses have been used safely, and they're used, billions of doses are used every year. And again, it's still, according to WHO, it's still the #1 cause of mental retardation in the world is iodine deficiency. And for people who think, oh, I get enough iodine, no, you don't. Unless you're Japanese or you're Korean who get iodine predominantly from their diet, Americans are known to be about 96% deficient. About 96% of Americans and people around the world in general are deficient in iodine, and oftentimes very, very deficient. And keep in mind that those are the things that trigger the P53 and things like that to shut off cancer, cause the apoptosis. And so the iodine, a couple of the other things that are great to use with, along with iodine, that if you can use, whether it be in a douche or whether it was an enema or whatever it is, however it's applied. Now we're talking about topically here and as a douche. However, there are things that can be used too that can be incredibly powerful for yeast problems. Whether that's sodium bicarbonate, apple cider vinegar, coconut oil, vaginally or topically. And there are others, but these are things that are very easy to use. But the main one I want to count and focus on, and they can be mixed with iodine very safely. But I want to focus on those using the iodine part of it. So I want to share a quick little study that one of the greatest iodine doctors there are is Dr. Jorge Fleckis talks about when he's talking about all the connective tissue and, well, if I put it on my labia majora or labia minora and other parts of the vulva, if I put it on there, what's that going to do with my, I have to do with my any areas of the vagina or the cervix or the uterus or stuff like that. Well, here's an example. He had 6 or 7 women that had a serious fibrocystic breast, very painful, nodules and stuff like that. Those women were in the medical office. They were doing a short study on it. He talks about this in one of his videos. They took these women, they used, they all had painful cysts and fibrocystic breast. They used a swab like this that I've used for a couple of years, which I find are fantastic to use in many different ways. They used that swab and on all 5 or 6 women, whatever it was, they took the swab and lined the vaginal wall with that povidone iodine. And within about 15-20 minutes, all 6 of those women, their pain was virtually gone. The tissue, the breast tissue, the nodules and fibrocystic breasts were softening already within that short period of time. So when we're talking about connective tissue and all the capillaries and all the things that are interconnected having to do with reproductive organs, you better believe that when you do something, you put a little bit of iodine here on your neck and where the lymph nodes are, and you're talking about your major arteries and stuff like that, it's going to go in there. It's going to get throughout the tissues and throughout the body. So it's a great way to get not only areas like the ovaries, which when you talk about cysts and nodules and stuff like that, a phenomenal way to get it outside of doing it orally, taking it orally as well. So what I want to say here, share here is, switch sides here. But anyway, yeah, this is my beautiful peach here. So when I, in future, if I ever have to, my girls ever have to, this subject ever has to be discussed, I say just watch one of my videos. So anyway, that's my beautiful picture of a peach. So, you know, it's a good metaphor, I guess. But anyway, this is povidone iodine, and this is povidone iodine as well, but in a swab. And so outside of, and again, I've shown this. This is actually from an enema, but this can be used very effectively and very safely as far as using it as a douche flush or as a vaginal flush, however. And actually, you know, when you talk about, and I get sidetracked again, when you're talking about things like colon cancer and different things like that, is there any reason outside of a little bit of worthless shame, is there any reason not to use something like this and to use warm water and to use sodium bicarbonate and to use iodine, which is known to kill cancer cells and fungal cells? Is there any reason not to do that versus having your body shredded or having to have chemo and radiation all day long that are known killers? These are things that are very simple, very safe, easy to use, and again, find yourself a good naturopathic doctor or somebody that is well aware of the safety of them and the uses of these products, and get it done. And the reason we're doing this is because it's dirt cheap. We've worked with many people in the Philippines, and I've worked with dozens and dozens of people here on this subject in particular, and it's always been effective. I've never not seen it effective, and again, I've never charged a single person, so this isn't about me making money. It'd be nice if I did, and I plan on doing that someday because I'd like to travel and I'd like to put extra food on the table and stuff, but it's always been about helping people. So anyway, I'll make it, try to make it a little quicker here. So a great way to do this is, we're talking about yeast infections, whether it be HPV or whether it be cervical, vaginal warts, whatever it is, give it a try. We know it's an antiviral, we know it's an antifungal, we know which covers yeast and everything else, of course. We know it's also an antimycotic, so it neutralizes the things that the fungus leave behind, and we know it's an antipathogenic bacterial. And science, and cases beyond belief with it, so it's worth a shot. So and here's some doctors here that we can shortly talk about, that you can look up and you can get your own doses and do things, but it's incredibly safe. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what I've discussed with other people, you do it on whether it's a 1 cup or a liter douche of warm water, and you use 20 drops of Lugols iodine, get it done. That's something that to strongly consider. It's virtually harmless. The best of the best doctors say take that orally when you have a flu, cold, different things like that. And I've done it myself many times. So that's one way to do it. Is, of course, you'd want to take, if you had the yeast issues, you want to take the Lugol's orally along with it. I would. That deals with things systemically. And if you're going to use it, do the vulva painting. Yeah, for you guys, testicular painting too is critical, because that's a way to get absorbed topically. It's a way to absorb iodine some 400% more than you might on the skin of your arm. So anyway, my suggestion. And I've suggested this too with somebody that's had fibrocystic breast or breast cancer stuff. There's no reason why would you not, when the breast tissue and the ovaries and the testicles and stuff like that, thyroid obviously, and every cell in your body requires iodine, and so many people are deficient. If you have breast cancer, why would you not put it on that tissue that's going to soak right into where the problem is? Why would you not put it on the lymph areas under your armpit that that's where the problems are? It's right there. And then you add something like DMSO to it, and it absorbs right into those tissues and just can wipe it out. And again, just look on PubMed. Science is all over the place. So here's my suggestion. These are great. They're very inexpensive. You could probably get 50 of these for $15, I think, a pay per box. And so this is the beautiful peach, and this is nice little leaves and core, and put it right along there. If that's what you want to do, and get it on there, be done. Do it often. Do it as often as you can. A little messy, whatever. Things get sticky. That's life. But get it on there. To me, and again, I've suggested this, and I've had many people do it, and do it without shame. Do it with health in your body as a temple and mind. And whether it's the labia majora, labia minora, all the other beautiful parts in our human anatomy, get it done. And again, you men, whether it's the testicles or whether it's actually on the penis itself or wherever you've got the issue, and you want to get that stuff to the prostate, and you don't want to do the enema that has stuff on it where you can get to the prostate very easily, directly, then do what you got to do. So, okay, that's it for that one right now. So for me, in my view, in what I've suggested and has worked very beautifully, is to do this topically, to do the, however you apply it internally, to nail the cervix, to soak into the uterus, to soak into the ovaries and stuff like that, that critically need it. Again, you know, if you're pregnant or you plan to get pregnant and stuff like that, you know, talk to your gynecologist and talk to your doctor. But iodine is crucial for a child as well, for lung development, brain development, you name it. So again, I'll go back to to Doug Hoffman and Know the Cause. Fantastic site, wonderful books. He's the king when it comes to mycology, and I've learned immense amounts of things from him that are just amazing. Dr. David Brownstein, as I always mentioned, Dr. Jorge Fleckis, and Dr. Guy Abraham, who's passed, but the first two, Dr. Brownstein's probably the iodine leader in the world today. And I want to mention that Dr. Rena Malik, she's a urologist. She's real fun. She does some really good videos on YouTube, and I just want to share it because I think she does a great job. You know, some things I disagree with, like seminal retention and some other things, but where I can come at it as a almost 56-year-old man with plenty of experience, whether it's, again, we've talked about seminal retention, or whether it's sexual transmutation or different things like that, or just sexual health in general, that just human experience matters more than orthodox medicine teaching. But anyway, she's wonderful. She does a great job. So you guys, you want to watch some good videos, and girls, she's a great urologist who does a great job. So that'll be it. I think that's it for today. And I think if you have any questions, you know, hit me up in the comments. Hopefully this is good enough to share and subscribe and have others subscribe, and hopefully we can send out some more content and I get better and better at this. I so appreciate you guys, anybody that's watching it, because it really means a lot to me. If I can help one, it'd be worth it, but hopefully I can help millions. So salamat, God bless.